My journey to motherhood started in 2016. I was fortunate to get pregnant with my first daughter, Eliana.
I'm a husband to Elizabeth Faboyede, and I'm just blessed to have children and have a wife that support me and we support each other.
The beginning of the pregnancy was normal. Around 14 weeks, I started having pain. I went to the ER a couple of times. They just kept sending me home. And then around 18 weeks, I actually went into preterm labor. I gave birth to Eliana prematurely. She lived for 3 hours and unfortunately passed away.
Losses are common, but when you actually go through it yourself, it hits different.
We went on to experience secondary infertility, and it took me a while to get pregnant with my now daughter that I have.
With Zena Faye, who is our living child, who's 4 years old, being able to constantly communicate and just be on the same page is what got us through.
Similar situation, feeling the same pains I felt with my first daughter around the same exact time. This time I had what's called a cerclage, which is used to keep the cervix shut. When I went to my anatomy scan, my daughter had kicked through the cerclage and her foot was already in my cervix, and I was 20 weeks. They were telling me I had to potentially induce labor, and I chose to say no, and I stayed home on bed rest. We went back. I was even more dilated. They set up the room for me to give birth. I just had an overwhelming feeling that it wasn't over, and I refused to go through it again. So I looked at my husband and I told him, I was like, we gotta get out of here.
We discharged ourselves from the hospital and drove somewhere else that would do something about it. And even if they didn't, at least we had that mindset, at least we tried.
My husband drove me to Brigham and Women's in Boston. The doctors there as well said similar things, but they were willing to try. At 22 weeks exactly, my daughter was born. She actually was breech and came out like a football. That experience for me was very, very traumatic. She was actually one of the earliest surviving babies in the world. At that point, they told us she might not make it. They gave us a lot of negative prognoses for her. She's a fighter. We spent 144 days in the NICU. After that, she came home 2 weeks after her due date. She's now a thriving 4-year-old. We named her Zena after the warrior princess. I am just so grateful for her because she's taught me, sorry, I'm trying not to get emotional. She taught me so much. I look at her and I just see strength, and I want her to know how special she is and how worth it she was. And no matter what her outcome would have been, I'm so glad we fought for her. So my story of hope for anyone in my situation is trust your instincts, fight for what you believe in, and never give up. Something that's given me hope about BMH equity is the fact that more women are sharing their stories, and there's more organizations doing the work to help Black women in their journey to motherhood and doing the work and the advocacy for our people. That's given me so much hope.